Hello and welcome to Love from the Other Side. If you are on this video, perhaps you too are in need of the type of hope that these stories bring. We bring you stories from around the world of people who have shared their near-death experiences. While you may not agree with everything they share, we do ask that all comments be kept respectful and kind. With that being said, let's get started with today's video. While this first experience may not have that spectacular of a scene unfold while she was experiencing her NDE, I still feel that the message from her testimony is a very important one, so I wanted to go ahead and share this first. I was at the community swimming pool with my father and older sister by 3 years. My sister and I had been playing in the water, but we were told we needed to come out for 15 minutes for an adult-only swim. I didn't understand why we had to get out because there weren't very many people there, and the pool was plenty big enough for us to stay in the water while the adults swam. But I obeyed, sort of. Our tails were by the deep end, so while my father swam and my sister sat, I was looking into the water, thinking I could probably jump in really hard and sink straight down to the bottom, and as soon as my feet touched, I could push myself back up and grab the side of the pool and pull myself out. I wasn't totally sure if that would work, but before I knew it, I had jumped in. The second I jumped in, I heard my sister yelling for my father, which was a good thing because it did not go as planned. I started spinning and had no control. I was taking in a lot of water because I wasn't holding my breath and was just frustrated with not being able to stop the spinning. I kind of woke up in the bottom of the pool and felt so relieved that the spinning had stopped. It felt really good and totally in control of my movements, and I was able to swim now. I didn't think at all about breathing. I thought I probably should go back up to the top and pull myself out like I had planned, but as I was heading up, I could see my sister standing by the side of the pool, looking down at the ground and not me, and my father and others were doing something on the ground. The first thing that entered my mind is they must have seen that I could swim now and I was doing fine, so they were busy with something else. As I was headed up, all of a sudden to my left, there were people under the water. It looked like a living nativity scene. I was totally shocked seeing them there and found the colors of their clothing to be so vivid, making them look completely out of place. I just stopped staring and tried making sense of what they were doing there. They were all looking down as if in a play waiting for someone to yell action. I was focused on Mary as she was first and wearing the most intense colored blue robe. I assume baby Jesus was there in the manger, but I don't recall seeing him. I know I saw a man in brown holding a shepherd's staff, but I really didn't look closely at anyone other than Mary. She had lifted her head and smiled at me. I was suddenly filled with so much love, and it felt like I was so very important. It was the best feeling I had ever had. I smiled back at her, and it was as if I knew her. I just wanted to be with her and started moving towards her when suddenly it felt like I was being yanked out of the water and took a huge breath, and I was on the other side of the pool with my sister and father. My father was standing by the fence and my sister was close to me. I looked around because I had no idea who had just pulled me out of the water. I felt confused and realized my father was really angry with me. He looked like he had tears in his eyes. My father had never gotten mad at me, but he was telling me I was so selfish and was saying other things I can't remember. I didn't understand because just a minute ago, he didn't seem to even care that I was in the water. When my father was done scolding me, I was looking at my sister who was glaring at me with her hands on her hips, but then her face softened and she asked me if I had been scared. I looked around to make sure my father wasn't near them, and I shook my head no, and told her it was really fun. Then she yelled at me and told me I had better not do that again. Later that week, I went to my uncle's house, and my aunt was asking me a lot of questions. She asked if I saw Jesus, but she held up a statue of a grown Jesus. I said no. Then she asked me to point to who I saw, so I pointed at a nativity scene, and she said, "Oh, baby Jesus, you saw baby Jesus." Then looked at my parents and said, "So she died." My dad got super upset again, and that was the last time it was ever brought up, other than one time years later when my dad and I were watching TV, and he said to me that if he had lost me that day in the pool, he would not have been able to go on. For years, the incidents of that day didn't make much sense to me. I thought that maybe when a person begins to drown, it must make them feel really good. I assumed I must have hallucinated seeing Mary and others, and that it really confused me because at my age I knew nothing about religion or death or a nativity scene. As far as I knew, it was totally associated with Christmas. So why in the middle of summer did I hallucinate on a Christmas scene? My father being so mad at me didn't make sense. He was always fun and loving and hardly ever got mad at us. I felt his reaction was over the top and totally not typical of him. I would think about the events of that day from time to time, but I would just shrug off how it didn't make any sense. One day in the summer of 2021, my sister and I were talking about that day, and I said, "I must have been really groggy when I was pulled out of the water." She looked at me totally surprised and said, "You weren't breathing. You needed to be resuscitated." I was shocked. I would have accepted groggy and hallucinating, but I definitely did not know I wasn't conscious. More confusion. Months later, I was watching YouTube videos and came across an NDE. I found it was fascinating and searched for more. As I watched as many as I could find, and people were explaining what happened to them, and I immediately knew that what they were saying was true. Eventually, I realized that there was something about their stories that felt familiar, and I started to search through the events of my past in my mind to see if I could pinpoint what was familiar. When I thought about the day at the pool, I thought it couldn't be it because I was just in the pool swimming, and it hit me that I didn't know how to swim because that's how I got into trouble in the first place. Then I realized that I never came up for air once, and I woke up in the bottom of the pool. But what really shocked me was when I realized what everyone must have been looking at on the other side of the pool while I was in the water. Of course, my father wouldn't have been okay with leaving me in the deep end while busy with something else. They were busy with my body trying to resuscitate me while I was having a great time in the water. Everything made sense. My poor father would have had every reason to be horrified. My first thought was, thank God children don't suffer when they die. Then I thought, we really don't die, we just move on. We bring our whole personalities with us. I was so much of myself when I was still in the water, and I had no idea I was dead. For some reason, I don't think I was supposed to see that I had died. The nativity scene stopped me from going up to see what was going on. Our second experience today comes from Lavette, and this is also a drowning experience. This is from 1977. Here's what she had to say. I was unable to swim when I was pushed into a pool at the deep end. I sank like a rock when I touched the bottom of the pool. Myself, as I call it, came out of my body. I was instantly up and to the right of my body, behind the right shoulder. I was very aware that the body I saw drowning was mine, yet I had no sympathy for it as I watched it drown and struggle for my life. I was completely unattached to it. I questioned immediately, how can I be there and here at the same time? I put my hands out in front of me and touched them together. As I felt this touch and recognized that they were my hands, I could not understand how this could be, and I took a deep breath and said, "Wow, I can breathe underwater." I was distracted by the voices of all those people poolside discussing the fate of my body as it drowned. I could clearly hear their words and was aware of their emotions concerning my drowning body, but I still did not care about it and returned my attention to the fact that it did not hurt at all to die. I was amazed at how much more real and vibrant the colors were and the light around me. This is real, and that the body was there was just a coat I had been wearing. It felt good to be out of it. I felt free from pain, confusion, and all of the heaviness of the weight of life on one's shoulders. My entire perspective on life was changing as fast as I could think. As I was basking in the wonder of it all, at the same time the one who pushed me in jumped in to get me. I watched as she pulled the body out to the top of the water. As fast as myself came out of the body, it went back in and was instantly very angry about it. I could now feel the experience the body had while I was separate from it. It had been terrified and angry, scared and afraid. I had not experienced any of that, yet now I was being forced to feel the state the flesh felt, even though I wasn't there with it when it happened. I never saw through the body's eyes. I could only feel what it was feeling about what had happened to it. I was also aware that nobody there had seen myself come out of me and I could not say anything to them about it. It seemed that while in the body, it had a priority and control of all my actions while in it. It had a strong survival instinct and was not aware of the fact that it really is okay to die. Then I was aware that it doesn't hurt the self to separate, but it hurts the body very badly. The self can experience the body while in it, but the body cannot experience the self. It is completely unaware of its existence. Those are our two experiences for the day. While I'm recording these, I have a dear friend in mind who lost her son to a drowning accident. Each day she has to drive by the spot where his car went over a bluff and he lost his life. It's stories like this that I hope will bring hope and healing to her grieving process and to anyone experiencing the same type of grief. Thank you for joining us again today, and until next time, God bless.